Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Educator Spotlight Series hosted by Teachers Cultivating Compassion in Schools. This community, founded by GROKtheWorld, supports educators in fostering emotional intelligence and meaningful connection. In each episode, we'll feature educators, coaches, and facilitators who are making a difference in education. We'll explore their insights, experiences, and how we can create more compassionate learning environments together. Today, I'm excited to chat with Holly Storm, a coach specializing in emotional intelligence and communication, with a focus on creating calm, connected learning environments. We'll dive into her work, what she's learned along the way, and how teachers can foster emotional safety and engagement in the classroom. Holly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and gift to be with you.
Oh, likewise. So let's get started. The first question I have for you. You work with both parents and educators on emotional intelligence and communication. What are some common challenges that they face when trying to create more connection and understanding with kids?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that teachers face and parents is the societal beliefs that so many of us have grown up with. So we've grown up in this culture that is what we call a dominant paradigm. And it means that what adults say, it's adult centric, what makes an adult comfortable, what the adult says goes, and what the adult wants is more important than what the child wants overall. And that becomes a challenge because when we approach children in that way, they have to fight for meaning. They have to fight to know that they're worthy. And so it sets up a dynamic just in that belief system from the beginning that we're in competition with each other.
Yeah. And I know that you have a framework that you use with your clients, and it's the Calm, Connect, and Communicate framework that I just love the name of it. And I know that that's central to your approach. So how can teachers apply this in the classroom setting to support student engagement and cooperation?
Yeah, so the whole premise behind the framework is rather than going in with expectations that children should automatically behave like little adults, we're going in with curiosity. So the first part, calm, is recognizing where our nervous system is. And I don't know about you and your experience growing up, but so many of us, especially women growing up, especially anybody in the caregiving field, has been told, well, your feelings don't matter. You're too sensitive. Get over it. Just let it go. Brush it off. We're told over and over and over again with this rhetoric that we shouldn't listen to our bodies. But really, our bodies are holding the answer to what's going on in front of us. And so is the child's body. The child's body is really a messenger for what their underlying needs are. So the very first step is calm, right? And that doesn't mean we need to be calm all the time. Like that would be unnatural and not human and not even healthy. Like it's really healthy to have the whole rainbow of emotions. But what it means is that we can tune into each of those emotions as messengers, regulate ourselves, and bring ourselves to safety so we can meet the children from this place of safety and curiosity. And that's where we start to connect. And
Mhm.
from that place of connecting, so we're connecting with ourselves, then we're connecting with the child and getting into what their feelings are. What are their emotions? What's their body telling them is so incredibly important. And we're getting underneath that. And once we get underneath that into their needs, then we have the information that we need. Um, I think a helpful framework around it is defining the problem. It's all about defining the problem, but defining the problem a little bit differently. Our society tends to go towards like ping pong strategy, thinking that the problem is the strategy. The problem is the child taking this other child's belongings. The problem is this child not staying in line. The problem is this child not putting their work away when they need to, or not stopping playing when they need to. But all of those are really strategies. So we might say that's the problem, but it's really like, then I might approach it with strategy ping pong of, well, you're not putting your work away in this way, so maybe this way will work. Well, maybe this way will work. And we just keep popping out things. When we are in that ping pong strategy, it's like, I know this is kind of a funny reference, but the Pink Floyd song, Another Brick in the Wall, we really are putting up these bricks that create disconnection. So there's like this brick wall between us. So when we approach with curiosity from nervous system to nervous system, we're dismantling those bricks, and it's more like flowing like water. With the Calm Connect communication framework, we are defining the problem differently from a nervous system layer and needs layer. Let's take a gentle hand and walk into this together.
Mm. Let's talk a little bit about traditional discipline, methods like rewards and punishments that are widely used in schools. We talked a little bit about ineffective strategies, but what are some alternative strategies that could encourage this positive behavior while fostering the children's emotional growth?
Yeah. So when we lead with rewards and punishments, we're leading with judgment rather
Mhm.
than leading with love and our heart and understanding, right? And anytime we lead with judgment, whether it's a positive judgment or a negative judgment, it puts people into a defensive. And part of that is with a reward, the dopamine in their brain, right? That's the chemical that makes us feel happy and good. And and we want to get that triggered over and over again. So with the reward system, we're going to be looking for more reward. What can I do more? What can I do more? And it creates this anxiety. And when our nervous system is in anxiety, we're no longer in emotional regulation. We're actually, um, whether it's excitement or whether it's fear, it's kind of the same level. It's raising it up. We might say a yellow or red on a nervous system scale. We talk about green being really grounded, and then red or yellow is elevated. So whether it's a reward or a punishment takes kids the same place, because then they're in fear, right? Am I going to have belonging? Am I going to be loved? Are my needs going to be met? Is this person going to take care of me? The kids in the classroom are really, really small mammals, and they have this deep, deep need for being cared for by the adults in their lives. So they're going to be fighting to know that they're going to be cared for. So going back to the question of what are some alternative strategies that can be used, I would really say going in with curiosity. And I know that that may not even sound like a strategy, but it truly is. If you think about it, like when you're in this place of judgment, where is your nervous system? Like my nervous system is heightened. When I'm going in with curiosity, I automatically take a breath. I can find myself breathing a little deeper. I can find myself grounding, and I'm like, okay, wait, how can I get curious about this? How can I better understand this being in front of me and connect with them more? There's one other strategy that I really love that works with kids really well, and that's just checking in with them. So part of this curiosity is like, hey, is this what's going on for you? Is this, so we're just kind of checking. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling afraid? Are you feeling worried? But then speaking to their dream. And what that means is, are you really wishing your mom was home? I've done some subbing in like preschool classrooms or even kindergarten classrooms. These kids just really miss their parents during the day. Are you really wishing you could be with your mom while you're here? Like be in both places at once? And so speaking to their dream gives kids a concrete way of knowing that they're being understood, because especially small children, children under 7 specifically, but I would raise that all the way up to 10, really helps to have these concrete ideas. Yeah, that's what I wish for. And and just that element of being understood can change the entire energy of that child and of the teacher and of the entire classroom in general. It's
Yeah.
got this whole ripple effect.
It's beautiful. I just got the chills. Yes, that really resonates. So, on another topic, let's talk a little bit about stress and burnout for educators. And I was wondering if you had any simple or practical ways that teachers can start to regulate their own emotions while they're also managing the demands of the classroom.
Yeah, it is so much, isn't it? I think the number one way I would say to teachers is just to see themselves. Like allow yourselves to take a step back and recognize what you're holding. You're holding a classroom. I mean, for small children in most states, it's like one adult to 10 kids. 10 kids under six. I mean, that is a whole lot of beings, a whole lot of emotions, a whole lot of needs that you're holding. And then for classrooms of five and up, it's often one adult to up to 32, 33 kids. That is a lot. So one thing is seeing yourself, and I just placed my hand on my heart, and that is a physiological thing. Like that's something tangible that you can do. There's been research done on putting your hand on your heart, and for over 70% of the population,
Mhm.
that is calming in and of itself. So you can put your hand on your heart and just see yourself for a moment. Acknowledge, oh boy, this is a day. Oh boy, this is frustrating. Wow, I'm holding a lot. Wow, I see my nervous system is really elevated and it totally makes sense. So I'm really leaning here into self-empathy. And for not everybody, breathing works, but if breathing works for you, you could put one hand on your heart and one hand on your tummy. And if you take one or two deep breaths, even, it can really de escalate the nervous system and allow you to step into that empathy. Because sometimes when we're in a place of being riled up and it's hard to come into that place of empathy. So something somatic like that can help. Or another one that you can do in the classroom that nobody will even know you're doing, although you might share it with kids, is try to feel your fingerprint.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
just that mindfulness of
yeah.
bringing presence to
Mhm.
this moment can bring things back. And
Mhm.
really, the longer term answer to burnout is having methods of physically, somatically processing the stress, like knowing that it's not just mind, it's not just meditating, it's not just breathing, but it actually needs to physically process through your body. And the thoughts need to process as well in a constructive way, because we can get into thought spirals and
Mhm.
that will just spiral into more and more burnout. But when we can interrupt those thoughts, especially with NVC, especially with grok cards, I love the grok cards for this. If we can use those tools to interrupt those thought cycles and bring in more constructive beliefs and thoughts and thinking patterns, then we're much less likely to experience long-term burnout.
That's amazing. That's so helpful. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that next time my kids are having a moment in my house. From what I understand, you also emphasize co-regulation as a key part of communication. So I'm wondering if you could explain what co-regulation would look like in a teacher-student relationship and why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So co-regulation is based on the ideas from polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges. And the idea behind co-regulation is that the energy in my body is, I'm losing the word, you can help me with it. Contagious, that's the word. So the energy is my body in my body is contagious to those around me. So when I step into a classroom, you might notice actually if you step into somebody else's classroom, whether it's a high energy or low energy, and then just ask yourself, what's the adult's energy in that classroom? Because usually the children are following the adult's nervous system. So if they're in this place of agenda oriented and anxiety about getting everything done in the day, then all the children are going to be elevated. But if they're in this place of, okay, we're going to ride this like water, ride the waves like we're on a surfboard, then you'll notice the children are doing that as well. And then on a more individual basis, if a kiddo is having a hard time, let's say there is a friend issue and a kiddo is crying or something like that, or even I was, like I said, in a preschool classroom, it was actually 3 through K the other day, a Montessori classroom. And these two kids were playing off of each other during the circle time, and they were making faces at each other and just making each other crack up. And I could see that the underlying need for at least one of the children was belonging and mattering, and that, yes, there was this element of fun, but it was this element of, I'm feeling a little anxious and I need to kind of release this. And so I asked him, hey, can I put my hand on your back? And he said, yes. And so all I did is I thought really calm, loving thoughts about him. I imagined him as an infant curled up in my arms, and I put my hand on his back and just breathed in. And the teacher was leading the group. It can be very different when you have co-teachers and the assistants like this. So this is an ideal situation, right? And I just kept my hand on his back, and it completely helped him shift his nervous system, and he no longer picked up on the other child. I never told him to stop, but it did allow him to focus. And then once he started focusing, the other child started focusing too. And then there was another kiddo right next to him who moved over. He's like, hey, will you put your hand on my back too? It's like,
Oh,
absolutely. It was so sweet, and really brought the whole circle into more focus, more calm.
wow. You talked a little bit about when teachers have an agenda or when they're trying to get things done. And, classroom management is such a big part of the teacher's responsibility. And I was wondering, how do you help teachers shift that mindset from classroom management to more of a fostering a culture of collaboration and mutual respect?
Yeah. That's tough in our culture, isn't it? Because so many things reference classroom management. And this is where I find MVC so fascinating, because these little word choices make a huge difference. Just think about it in your nervous system. When you're thinking of classroom management, how do you feel? What do you notice? Yeah,
Yes.
you get all
Yeah.
tense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do the same thing. It's like, oh no, I need to manage something. Oh no, somebody's judging me, right? So, one part of it is just to ask yourself, what's a different way that I want to think about this? How do I want to approach my classroom? And you mentioned collaboration and mutual respect. So, I might think about, well, in my classroom, I want to lead with the heart, I want to lead with love. Okay, so when you think of leading with love, how does your body change?
Yeah.
How does your nervous system change? My
Mm.
heart automatically comes out. I'm like, I'm leading with love. I'm leading with my heart. My heart comes forward. I'm
Mm.
breathing deeper already, which is going to regulate my nervous system. So just a tiny little mind shift about, anytime I hear classroom management, I'm going to reword it for myself as mutual respect, of leading with love,
Yeah.
something like that, or whatever fits for you.
Mm. I mean, you shared that beautiful story with the hand on the back of that little boy. And I was wondering if you have any stories that you'd like to share where the teacher applied your method and when you saw a meaningful shift in the student's behavior or the classroom atmosphere.
Yeah. So again, most of my experience has been in a Montessori environment, which is just such an incredible gift to be a part of. And it is a public Montessori school. And I'm saying that to say that this is possible in a public school. It's a charter school, however, it is a public school. And so I would love to share the story about a teacher that actually worked with the middle schoolers. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it can easily become personally identifiable, but I will say that they have this time when that's called self-expressions when the kids get to go do something fun.
Mhm.
Well, during one of these self-expressions, they had a problem with part of the group, and they wanted the group to stick together with the teachers. And some of the students peeled off and decided to go back to the school instead of sticking with the group. And so the way the teachers were automatically going to approach it was there needs to be some consequence. You know, the kids can't participate next time, and we need to talk to the parents and let them know. And the kids don't know, or the kids need to know that too, so they expect that they don't get to participate next time. And so what I suggested, I said, well, what is that going to really bring? What are they going to learn? They're going to learn that you have power over them.
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, and they came to that conclusion on their own. I was like, what are you going to learn? And they came to that conclusion. Well, they're going to learn that that we have power over them. What else are they going to learn? To do what the teacher says? Maybe. But what do you want them to learn?
Mhm.
So Marshall Rosenberg often says, what do you want the child to do, or what do you want the person to do? And what do you want their reasons to be for doing it? Like, do you want the reason to stay with the group to be because you said so? Maybe partly as a teacher, like we need some of that authority to keep everybody safe because we're just expected to hold a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but really, we want them to stay there because they think of themselves as part of the community, as part of the team, as wanting to contribute to the well-being of everybody present. So what I suggested is that they have a conversation with these kids and that they allow these kids some space to reflect what was the impact of their actions, and that they take time to self-express as teachers the
Mhm.
impact that this situation had on them. What was their nervous system like? How did it impact how they worked with the rest of the students? How did it impact the community?
Yeah.
And then open it up and ask the kids what they think. What do
Mhm.
they think needs to happen from here? And so they chose to do that. And they did get favorable results. The kids recognized the impact of their actions. They said, oh, we really realized that we shouldn't do that. We are going to take a break next time. They chose that for themselves. And we're then we'll rejoin, and we understand how important it is to stay with the group. And I have not heard of a problem like that since.
Wow. Just goes to show you how effective this is when they really truly understand the feelings and needs of the other people involved. Wow. And my next question for you, Holly, is if a teacher wanted to begin implementing your approach, but only has the time or the energy, the capacity for one small shift or one small change, what would you suggest as the first step?
Mhm. I think the very first step would be to allow space, even if it's 1 minute in your day, to find presence.
Mm.
Because from that place, everything can grow. So a lot of people will do this first thing in the morning. They'll wake up, and before they even get out of bed to use the restroom or anything else, they'll just take 1 minute to feel into their body, to feel the weight of gravity, to feel the breath coming into their body, to allow themselves to be present. For me, a minute is 6 deep breaths. So for 6 deep breaths, just allowing this feeling of being with your breath and being present, and maybe even setting an intention of leading with love. Um, there's a saying that is really old, but continues to be so alive for me. And it's where attention goes, energy flows.
Mhm.
And Dan Siegel who is a psychologist and works a lot with brain science and that kind of stuff, talks about where where attention goes, energy flows, and neurons grow.
Mm.
And so we're actually reworking the neural pathways in our brain when we take this moment to ground in, to set an intention, and just even having that thought is literally going to change the neural pathways in the brain. And it sets an opportunity for your brain to come back to that neural pathway. The way neural pathways work is so cool because once a path is set, every time we go to that same thought pattern, it gets faster and easier and faster and easier and faster and easier, and it more naturally comes up throughout the day. So it's a
Mm.
beautiful way to plant a seed that has the potential to blossom.
Oh, that's, yeah, planting the seed and starting with presence. Love it. And my last question for you is, what is next for you? And are there any new projects or collaborations on the horizon that educators should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So right now, I am providing private coaching, and I also host a continuation group. So a continuation of what, you might ask? So twice a year, my colleague Mary May, who is a certified NVC trainer, and we provide a program called Parenting with Trust and Connection, and it happens once in the spring, once in the fall, and it's a 14-week program, which I get is an investment,
Mhm.
and the shifts that have been made out of that program are completely mind-blowing. People talk about how it shifts their relationship with themselves, their kids, their partners, and then their schools. Their
Mhm.
schools in general. I'm going to keep that really general because it's their colleague relationships, it's their relationships with the students, all of the pieces. Relationship with admin, which can be really difficult in some schools.
Mhm.
So it really affects every facet of the relationships. So I think it's totally worth the time investment. I know people who have gone through it say the same thing. And then there's the opportunity to continue that work where we make the schedule a little more flexible and lighter, but we have this place you can come back to for support, for grounding, for continued learning and growth and deepening and just integrating more of it into the mind and body. So I do invite people, if you are interested in that at all, or if you want to learn about any of this, I have a little opt-in that you can sign up for. It'll sign you up for my email list so you can get inspiration and ideas weekly. But it also is a little like party favor. It's called a behavior translator. And it
Ooh.
takes some of those common behaviors that we see and
Mhm.
helps you understand what the kids need underneath. What's going on for these kids? Because if you're not practiced in this work, and I'll be totally honest that Grok cards have really, really deepened my integration of understanding what's going on beneath it.
Yeah.
I've used those so much with my own kids, and it really changes my everyday language that I use. So, in addition to your Grok cards, you can use this as a little cheat sheet to kind of get below some of those behaviors.
I love
And so
that.
you can find that at bit.ly/behavior translator, and bit.ly is bit.ly
Okay.
and then /behavior translator, all one word.
Fantastic. And I'll put the link in the description of this video when I post it. So that way we can be sure to share that with everybody.
Awesome.
Amazing. And I'm not surprised to hear such positive responses from people because I'm already leaving this conversation so inspired, and it's only been a short time. I can't imagine what 14 months would do. So I would encourage everybody to check that out. So I'll put the link in the description. Thank you, Holly, for sharing your wisdom with me and with anybody else who's listening. I'm leaving this conversation so inspired and excited for your next steps and for the growth of our community of educators with your participation. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much for this opportunity, Jen. I really appreciate uh, the gift of being able to share.